much. All right. Welcome back to the podcast, Tell Them For Me, a podcast by Road to Purity. It's been a while. We've had a lot going on. What was even the last podcast? I don't know if we've done anything since the gala.
I don't know. We've had a lot of pieces of other videos and things that we've been
you've
posting.
Been guests on other ones.
I've been on a lot of other podcasts that we've posted.
Relevant
but
Radio.
Doing our own.
All that kind of stuff.
We haven't done it in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So, time to catch up.
Yeah. You had some topics for today specifically.
Yeah, there was one thing I wanted to talk about that mostly kind of addressed the topic of what's underneath the addiction, and it lends itself to why we are looking at another product or program that we're working on that's for families. For the most part, as many of you know, or people know that are in our programs, one of the features that we work on for the most part is trying to get to the roots of an addiction, of the porn or sexual addiction and whatnot. And for the most part, there's roots of things that are deal with things of history, childhood for the most part, things that help, not in a good way, help us create a false identity and our beliefs about ourselves that form our behaviors and the way we act. As we've talked about before in other episodes, and as well as in the book, we say that porn is not about porn; it's about something deeper. It's generally a medication or an escape. The real thing that's going on is that pretty much all of us have brokenness, woundedness from childhood and forward, and things that have happened in our lives, unforgiveness. There's just a lot of things that shape our identities and who we are. And the vast majority of us, those identities don't always lend themselves favorably in our behaviors, in our choices, and what we do. And so often, pornography and any type of sexual disorders or behaviors are things, like I said, to medicate or mask the unpleasant feelings that we have, or something to fill in the gaps, if you will, of are not feeling worthy and not good enough. We've talked before on an episode on lust, things that make us want to satisfy that craving inside that is emptiness, that really God is supposed to fill, but that's not where most of us go until we learn how to do that. So it's the discovery in that we work with in the Restoring God's Foundation program, in our community and everything else, that really gets to the root of that. But in actuality, while that is all true, so many other behaviors become a result of this. And it's addressing those is where we're going. One of the things that I came to recently, kind of in prayer, came up to me, was more or less revealed to me, is thinking about the act of what we're doing. A lot of times people will look at it as our behaviors and whatnot as like a tree. We have some big ugly tree that's got scraggly branches and so forth, and you just can't get rid of it. It drops sap on your car and whatever. And you can trim it, cut all the branches off. But in time they grow back. Just like addressing the behaviors, with porn, looking at exit strategies, trying to white knuckle things and not do it. It's not going to make it go away. Another option is you can cut the tree off, the trunk, and that'll last much longer. It's much better of a solution. But ultimately, you see that, and sprigs and whatever begin to grow up from the tree. It still eventually grows back. So you have to go through that painstaking effort and dig the roots out, get it all the way down, dig like a big hole, get all these roots out. And that's kind of what we have to do with our behaviors and addictions. We have to get to the roots of what we have, the reasons of why we behave the way we do. Now, one thing that kind of came to me once was, what if we could go back to when that tree was originally planted, a sapling, and pull that tree out? It'd be much easier to just get rid of that tree then, rather than later trying to go through the pain of digging it out and all the effort,
right,
which is very difficult. You can't find all the roots, and it just takes a lot of work. But if you can yank that tree out when you know it's going to be a bad tree to begin with, you can get so much further ahead. Now you yank it out when it's young, as a child. So what our goal is in our newer program, as I'm getting into this, might as well just talk about it. We have a parent and family program that we're working on. I think tentatively our tentative title is Restoring the Family, which will go like with Restoring God's Foundation line of programs, where we not only work with parents, and it can be a lot in the sexual issues, which is a common thing, but it's a lot of the behaviors. So we can help guide the parent to clean themselves up and their own, issues, but help learn and teach them to coach their children how to do the same before the behaviors become, so ingrained that, you find out I talk to so many, kids, or I say kids, in their 20s and whatnot, who are just stuck already in this, or even, 16, 18-year-olds who have been stuck in this for years. What if we can get back to a 9-year-old or a 7-year-old and find out what the issues are at that age and get it cleaned up then? Eliminate their false beliefs, reject the lies that they believe, and focus on Christ and the truth of who they are. And as a 7-year-old or 8-year-old, teach them that they are the beloved son or daughter of Christ, of God. Have them begin to believe that then. How much further will that go in their lives before they get to the age of, turning to all these negative things to fulfill themselves that are just not healthy?
Don't you think a lot of people are already doing that, though? Teaching them that they're a beloved child of Christ? It seems pretty fundamental for Catholic parents today.
You would think so. In all the people that we've talked to, in the workshops that we've done, and the talks that we've done, even surveys that we have, in the hundreds of men that I've talked to, they don't know any, even at 25, 40, 60 years old that I talk to.
Well, I think it's maybe more of a new concept than the generation before.
It may be. And so many of the parents that I talk to, and we can see that, now in some of the surveys that we take, I don't think that they're really going there. And even if they do begin to believe that, they're not addressing the lies that
I think
child's believing.
I think that's the bigger part of it, that we, as we're developing the family program, Restoring the Family, I think that's the bigger part of it. To me, that sounds more impactful that we've been working on is the concept of the foundation that no matter what, you're going to end up encountering pain and woundedness. And we give a lot of people tools to go back through and, like you said, reject the lies that they've been told. I think that's one of the biggest things that we've learned is the lies. Everything, so much of our lives and our dysfunction has to do with lies that the enemy tells us about ourselves, that we believe about ourselves that just aren't true.
Yeah.
And then we act in that way, believing that we are less than we should be. And I think being able to teach your children that in the beginning, that when certain things come up and you've got people being mean to you at school or what have you, being able to recognize, well, and this goes back to what you're saying, there has to be a fundamental truth there. In order for rejecting the lies to work, you have to know what the proper truth is in the eyes of God.
Right.
So to be able to say that I'm not ugly, or that, to know that I'm a beloved child of Christ is the truth that combats whatever lie it might be that is trying to be put into the world, into my world from friends or bullies or whatever you want to call it. But I think those tools too are part of what I'm excited about for the program, more than just that foundation. Because I feel like a lot of parents I know, at least in my, roughly my kind of demographic age category with kids. I mean, all of our kids are mostly under 5 at this point, but still they're really focused on that from the beginning of you are a beloved child of God. But I think it goes even further than that. It's like, okay, now you know the truth, but when the lies come in, do you know to say, no, I know that that's a lie because I've been told the truth before.
And a lot of this depends on the parent knowing this, learning it themselves, and it's working kind of from the top down, so to speak, simultaneously with the parent teaching them these truths and also helping them relieve the lies that they have grown up with, that they now exist with, whether they're, early 20s, 30s, whatever the case. Getting them to be cleaned up, so to speak, and live the truth of who they are. Then they can help coach their kids.
Well, it goes back to the thing we always talk about, it everybody's heard by now usually, is if you don't transform your pain, you will transmit it. So you want to give your kids the best chance of success, transform your own pain first.
Right. So it's guiding the parent to identify their pain, transform their pain, go through whatever forgiveness is necessary that ties people down.
And that pain can be anything. We're branching into an area that you may not be struggling with pornography or sexual issues at all.
And that's what we've discovered with this, is that pornography is one of the most common things that we run into. And personally, it's my historical background and my expertise in the area. But as we've developed the truth of how to get free from it, we have seen all of these other issues that don't just react or don't just reveal themselves in an addiction, so to speak, but in all kinds of behaviors. People very commonly will look to others for their own personal value. So they will look at other people's opinions and comments and thoughts and the way they behave, and they will take that personally if it's about them. So the way that the people react at a party, or if somebody doesn't take the time to say hi to them after Mass or whatever, they'll personally feel rejected because that's their own thing.
Well, and people have a massive lack of proper identity.
Right.
They have false identity, which is its own entire issue practically by itself. In the consequences of it.
And all of those result in the behaviors that they have, and whether it's an addiction that reveals itself or just a general behavior. In the same thing, where depending on the parent, these are some of the things that it's teaching the parents for the affirmation that's necessary for their kids, and understanding what a parent may be doing that necessarily not bad. It's just something they have to do out of life, but how it may impact their child, thinking from their perspective. And I use an example from a client that I had generically, that his father was a police officer, and he worked second shift as a security guard. So his dad wasn't there a lot. Well, this particular man had a lot of sexual issues, looking for sex to fulfill his need to be wanted and accepted and loved and so forth. But you talk to him as an adult, he would say, well, my father was great. He worked 2 jobs to take care of the family, did what he had to do to put food on the table. Why do I need to forgive him? Why would he be a problem? And on the surface, as an adult, he's absolutely right. But in time digging, you find out this man inside has this 5-year-old little boy inside who says, where is my daddy? Why isn't he here? He's never home. Does he not want to be with me? Yeah. Well, his dad had to do what he had to do. And this is just part of what, happened. So
it's just part of life.
It's part of life, yeah. So there's not a whole lot they could do to prevent the behavior. So his dad didn't do anything sinful against the kid. But the kid still felt that way. Looking back, had there been, hindsight and whatnot, maybe that father could have spent more time with his son when he was home, maybe say a few more things to him about, hey, how special he is, and, affirm more things to him to help offset the fact that he wasn't there. Maybe that would take the care of the problem, maybe it wouldn't. But at least knowing that as an adult may help counter that for the child.
Well, and regardless of whether or not the father did something wrong, I mean, saying for the moment that he didn't, it sounds like he didn't really, like you said, he didn't do anything sinful toward the child. It was a matter of life circumstance. The pain in the wound is still real.
Right.
The pain in the wound of the child is still valid, even though the father maybe couldn't have done anything better given their life circumstance. There's still pain and woundedness that needs to be addressed and needs to be dealt with in some way. And our goal here, too, is that with this new program, we're taking that post situation of, I just realized that I have this pain from a child, and no, I'm not mad at my dad. He did what he could. I love my dad. He was, like he said, all good things. He's like, I don't need to forgive my dad, and all those kinds of things that he was thinking.
Right.
but he still needed to be able to deal with that pain and woundedness and get healing for that. And we still want to try and find a way. Okay, there's going to be situations like that. That's a perfect example of some things are unavoidable. And that's part of life. That's part of carrying your cross. I mean, as Catholics, we were promised suffering.
Right.
But finding joy in that suffering, and I think that has to do with how can you teach your kids to preemptively, the types of things that can come from that are lies, like, maybe feeling like you're not loved enough for your dad to be home, or that you're not worth enough because he's gone all the time.
Right.
Whatever it may be, are lies that come up that are obviously not true. And again, we're not blaming the dad because he did what he had to do. But rejecting those lies and renouncing those lies and all that kind of stuff. So finding a way to teach kids, not necessarily super young when it's age appropriate and throughout until they're able to leave the home, but having that concept of things in your life will happen that will cause pain and woundedness that need to be addressed, that need to be healed, that will come up with lies. So how do you dispel those lies? Because they really impact you deeply, whether you think about it or not.
And it's awareness and communication. Is the biggest part. And part of our efforts are to help have the parents become aware of putting themselves in a the perspective of a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, or whatever, and say, what might they be thinking over what I'm doing? I don't have a choice. I have to do what I'm doing. And let me do what I can to offset this, or teach them ways that they recognize that they're feeling unwanted or feeling neglected or rejected or whatever. Teach them about being aware of that and what to do with it at those ages. Now, that's an example of things to where parent didn't do anything wrong, but needs to be aware of it because it greatly impacted this man to where he had a huge, sexual addiction problem, in his 40s and 50s, just through this unknown, behavior. Then you go all the way to true neglect or trauma, so and anything in between. But I think that really the point is somehow we all get wounded. Whether it's intentional or not, or accidental or trauma, we get wounded. I mean, and I think it's part of what we've been doing is bringing in spiritual warfare into this. And I think the enemy loves to find opportunities to say, hey, your dad doesn't really love you. He's not here.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And teach this is what's going on,
And I think that's the big part of it is the spiritual warfare aspect of it that people overlook. There's a lot of psychology you can throw at it and dispel all that. But there is also a force that is against you that, we know as Catholics is truly there. But you also have, this is one of the things we're going to talk about in the program that we're developing, that a lot of people don't understand a lot of basics, I think, around spiritual warfare and deliverance concepts, and a lot of it's super scary and, all that kind of stuff. But the reality is you have authority through your baptism. You have authority over yourself. And you can tell them to leave. You can tell them to get out in the name of Jesus Christ, and they have to listen. That's just, a rule. Right. And then that the fact that you have authority over your children and all of the rules that go with that. So there's that psychology aspect of going through and understanding mentally. I feel like I'm being told my dad doesn't really love me. Knowing that that's not true. But then being able to say, no, like in the name of Jesus Christ, I renounce that lie. That my dad doesn't love me. And I proclaim the truth that he loves me very much. And he did the best that he could with whatever he had, but to renounce, to deliberately attack spiritually whatever's compelling you to think that, whatever's putting those lies in your head is a part of it that I think people overlook.
And there's a whole host of things that we need to have, that we will have in this program. Theology of the body, at all different age appropriate, things. I mean, theology of the body, people think often is very intellectual and adult topic and so forth, but you really get into it. I've seen books, TOB for toddlers, where it just, 3-year-old can just say, I am created by God. This is my body. He made me a boy, and he has a plan for me. That's all he needs to know.
That's all you need to know. Well, the theology of the body at its core is extremely basic. It's just that the topic it deals with at the crux of its most perverted is an adult topic, right? We're
Right.
talking about, what the reason we talk about it a lot is to address why you shouldn't do things like consume pornography or premarital sex or what have you.
Right.
But in reality, at its base, it's the foundation that explains why that's a problem, but can also just be general information that you need to know about yourself and your body as you're growing up, and not using other people and all that kind of stuff.
And for the most part, just learning the very basics of it, the core, simple part of it.
Yeah.
When you have a good foundation and understanding that, then you get into the perverse behaviors and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
They suddenly become much more out of bounds, so to speak, of a behavior, because they go against the core of what you've learned and understand.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we're unfortunately running out of time today, but that's, there's the point of it is that, to summarize, there's a lot more going on with people in terms of where their sexual addiction, their porn habit, whatever it may be, is coming from. And we've now embarked on developing a program specifically for families that hopefully builds a foundation to prevent a lot of turmoil in a lot of different ways, especially sexual, but even in other ways. I do just want to mention, for those who might be interested in that and want to help us develop the program, we do have a survey going on right now. We're doing a bit of research, trying to get as many responses as possible, just to understand what, on a wide data set, we want actual data to back up everything that we're doing. So we want to actually understand how people grew up, what kind of education did they receive sexually, and what are they planning to do with their families now? What have they been doing with their families now? What works? What have they seen that feels like it's missing? We think there's a lot missing, and we want to know what people want to see in a program. We've got a fantastic outline already of a lot of different topics that we are set to cover, that we've started development on. But if anybody's interested in supporting us in this project and wants to just give us some insight on your experience, it's completely anonymous. We have a survey. If you go to roadtopurity.com/survey giveaway, we'll put a link in the description, but it's completely anonymous, and we've got a few perks for taking it. You'll get a free Holy Hours of Healing book. You'll get 15% off the Road to Purity store-wide, and you'll be entered to win a $100 Visa gift card. And pro tip, we're giving $100 to every 100 responses, we'll choose a winner. So every 100 survey responses. And if you share the survey with a friend, you get extra entries for every person you share it with. So again, roadtopurity.com/survey giveaway. We're going to do we already went through one round. We're going to do our next drawing. I think it's on February 21st. So you got to do it before then if you want to be entered to the next drawing. But if you want to help us develop our Restoring Family program, take that survey.
We do have many other professionals, outside professionals, that we are seeking collaboration with.
Yeah, this is going to be a collaborative effort,
many
consulting a lot of professionals,
Theology,
psychologists,
body,
theology, body experts, exorcists. We've, a lot of different
warfare,
people. Yeah, absolutely.
All things.
But otherwise, that's, I think, all we have for today. God bless everyone, and thanks for listening. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss in future episodes, shoot us an email at ask@roadtopurity.com. Don't forget to visit our website, roadtopurity.com, for all our free resources and affordable programs to help men and women who are looking to grow in sexual purity. We rely on donations to keep doing what we do, so if you'd like to support Road to Purity, please consider donating at roadtopurity.com/donate. Thanks again for your support. God bless.